Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrei Shevchenko, and on behalf of the team of the Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum, I want to thank all the journalists who tell the world about our fight for freedom. Now we will be talking with Mariana Reva, the spokeswoman of the National Police of Ukraine.
Уваги. Скажіть, що ви зараз бачите?
Вітаю.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you for the questions. Unfortunately, now we celebrate the New Year during martial law, and there are certain restrictions in effect and limitations that the police keeps controlling. In terms of compliance of the citizens with those limitations, they're not implemented just for nothing, but they are called to provide most security and safety for the people. Talking about the New Year holidays, the police fulfilled all the tasks vested in them in terms of security and safety during this period. During the 1st of January, we received more than 29,000 reports to 102 phone line. More than 5,000 were criminal events. Some of them were just of information nature and about the administrative violations of different types. Talking about the martial law, we warned and we were emphasizing that the martial law is not cancelled during holidays, so police would take all the necessary actions to control the compliance of the citizens with this requirement. So I want to say that the citizens generally complied with the requirements, and we have to emphasize that the martial law coincided with air raid alert during New Year. There was a missile strike by Russian Federation by aggressor, so the people were mostly in the shelters and did not violate the martial law. However, there were registered cases of violations. A bit more than 100 such cases were documented, and 60 of them in Kyiv. The police officers were checking the documents and they were letting people go, emphasizing that the citizens should have paid attention to the air raid alert. Everybody was taking it with understanding, and we do appreciate it. Further on, talking about the reports that we received in the police, there were many reports of the robberies, fraud, and hooligan actions. You could observe that there was a video in different social media that during New Year night, people, regardless of the warnings and restrictions, they were using pyrotechnic devices, which again, I want to emphasize it, they're prohibited, both selling and use. It contemplates criminal liability. We documented more than 80 reports throughout Ukraine related to the use of the pyrotechnic devices, and more than 20 of them were coming from Kyiv. Some of them were overlapping, some of them were not confirmed, but the number of them were confirmed. There were 2 criminal cases filed for the use of pyrotechnic devices in Kyiv. In the Darnetsky district, we have 1 person detained. They will be issued a note of suspicion, and one of such facts was in the district of Oboland. The police officers work in investigating the event. Another such case was documented in Vinnytsia, and the person was detained. Also, there are more than 10 administrative protocols for the use of pyrotechnic devices throughout Ukraine. So once again, I want to emphasize that there is a restriction in effect for selling and use of the pyrotechnic devices in Ukraine. So please hear us and please take into account the human factor. We're not only talking about the violation of legislation, but there is a large category of the people who experienced the war, and the sounds of the pyrotechnic devices, of the fireworks, remind them of the explosions. We're living in difficult times, so let's take care of those people. Also, the safety of traffic within the period from the 1st to 3rd of January, we documented more than 300 traffic accidents, more than 50 persons were injured, and one unfortunately died. Talking about the 1st of January, the more than 140 persons were injured. So please be responsible while driving. Well, during the period of New Year and Christmas holidays, the police works in reinforced mode. We have the reserves formed in ranks of patrol police, the walking patrols, and vehicle patrols, K9 teams, and we will do everything possible to ensure the safety and security of the citizens during this period. Good afternoon, Elena Soka, Ukraine Forum. Miss Mariana, I would like to detailize about the pyrotechnic devices. You had cases documented in Kyiv and Vinnytsia. What are the other regions you had it documented? Well, we had both Kyiv regions, Kharkiv, Chernivtsi regions, but they are mostly they mostly ended in administrative cases. The criminal cases were qualified in Kyiv and Vinnytsia. So how do you tell administrative from criminal? So it has certain details. There should be an investigation going on depending on how the person was acting. If they were doing it in cynical and bold manner, it resulted in violation of the public safety. And what can be the consequences for the violator? Talking about the administrative liability, it's from a couple of hundreds hryvnia up to 34,000 hryvnia. But talking about the criminal liability, it starts with 17,000 hryvnias and up to 5 years of imprisonment. Any more questions in the studio? I will have a question of a more broad nature. How does the war, this lengthy continuous war, influence the criminality? Do you observe any trends? Thank you for the question. The statistics is still being calculated for the last year, but yes, we can observe certain tendencies. There is a tendency to the decrease of the level of criminality within the first month of full-scale war. We documented that the rate of criminality fell more than 50% in a number of regions. It was related to reinforcement of the police teams patrolling in the streets, and also that the criminals were evacuating or they were under threats, but after half a year they already raised their head and started their illegal activities. So the police, first of all, they fight the internal enemy, are the criminal elements, and that there is a decrease in the number of the property crimes and the great bodily harm, and there is a decrease in the number of the illegal arms trafficking, but there's a lot of fraud. the amount of the crimes related to fraud grew more than 40%. This category of the criminals are quite flexible, and they feel the moods of the society, and they implement their schemes in current conditions quite flexibly. And it's related to the rent of dwellings in western regions when people were evacuating from the hot points in Ukraine, and the fraud related to the search of the missing persons. It's a very important moment. They use quite frequently this scheme now. And first of all, people have to ensure their own safety and security. If there is information that your close ones are missing, you cannot get in touch with them. Don't post it in the social media, publishing all of your personal details, because the fraudsters using the information about your name and the date of birth and your telephone, they call you, and unfortunately there are cases when they demand money under these fraud schemes, and unfortunately people ended up in difficult situations. You have to go to police, and talking about the missing persons, you have to submit your biologic specimens so we could identify the persons that we find. Vitaly Zalewski, 5th channel, you said that more than 100 people were seen by the patrol policemen during martial law. Were all of them let go? Because I've seen on the social media that one of them was detained. In fact, they are only detained in case there are reasons for that. If we inspect the person and we understand they are on search, or if we identify some prohibited substances during inspection, or some pyrotechnic devices or arms, yes, the person may be detained. But talking about the violators of the martial law, I want you to emphasize it too, that we inspect, we check those persons. If everything is all right with the documents, if such persons have no problems with the law, they're being let go. We had certain moments when we drew up administrative protocols for drinking alcoholic beverages in public spaces, but specifically the persons are not being detained for violation of the martial law. Such people were let go. So there were no some serious violations, like, for example, drinking of alcoholic beverages. That's the administrative violation, like 5 protocols all across Ukraine, and the court will identify the guilt. Mariana Reva, the spokesperson of the National Police of Ukraine, thank you for this briefing, and we call the journalists to follow our announcements. Stand with Ukraine.
Все, дякую всім з прийдешніми святами.